Part 1. The Arrival. The atrium of the Eidolon Research Complex stretched farther than any eye could see. Walls of living crystal pulsed with an inner glow, refracting strange spectra across the polished floors. Beings from 100 different species scurried, floated, or slithered through the air like living streams of thought. Gravity shifted seamlessly from one corridor to another, each tuned to the needs of its resident species. The Eidolon Complex was not merely a laboratory. It was the crown jewel of the galaxy's intellect, where the rules of reality were bent, measured, and rewritten. And today, the atrium buzzed with an excitement almost unheard of. Whispers moved like electrical currents across the gathered scholars. Feathered Kalari fluffed their plumage nervously. The crystalline coral clicked their facets together in agitation. The insectoid Zarthi rubbed their forelimbs against their mandibles, producing anxious rhythms. The reason for their unrest? A human. The announcement. For centuries, the complex had hosted the brightest minds of the galaxy's countless species. Each candidate went through trials of intellect and endurance, proving themselves against the most punishing environments and the most abstract of riddles. No primitive, no backward culture had ever been admitted. And yet, the director's voice, calm, resonant, terrifying in its certainty, had made the declaration only a cycle ago. We will admit a representative of the species known as Homo sapiens into our laboratories. The humans of Sol will be given a chance to observe and contribute. They will be recognized as an intellectual peer. The chamber had erupted into outrage that day. Humans were nothing but fragile bipeds, bound to one oxygen world, their technology still primitive compared to even the galactic average. Yes, whispers said they were survivors, but intellect, rule breakers of nature, laughable. Yet the director had not wavered. And so, today, the aliens gathered, awaiting the impossible. First glimpse. The atrium's great doors parted with a hiss of compressed energy. Light from the outside spilled in, silhouetting a lone figure. The human stepped forward. He was unarmored, unaugmented, wearing nothing but a simple uniform of dark fabric. Two forward-facing eyes scanned the chamber, predatory in their intensity. He walked on two legs, movement smooth, almost casual, as though he was not standing inside the most intimidating scientific facility in the known galaxy, but strolling down a village path. The aliens recoiled instinctively. The Kalari spread their wings and pressed against the walls. The coral dimmed their crystal glow. A Zarthi clicked. Too calm, it looks like it hunts even here. The human's gaze moved across them, unblinking, and he smiled. That smile spread through the crowd, like a wave of dread. Orientation. The director appeared, an amorphous being of shifting fractal patterns, known as a Varan. Its voice resonated directly in the minds of all present. This is the human. His name is Daniel Carter. He will participate in our trials, observe our work, and offer his perspective. Do not underestimate what you cannot understand. Aliens whispered furiously. Offer his perspective? What perspective could a creature of flesh and bone provide here? Daniel raised a hand slightly, a gesture of greeting. Hi, he said, voice calm but echoing in the silence. Thanks for letting me be here. I'll try not to break anything. The Kalari elder beside him shivered. Try not to break anything? Does he imply he could? The phrase break anything carried a weight none of them could dismiss. The first test. Daniel was escorted into the radiation hall, a chamber lined with containment fields where experiments on stellar cores and exotic particles were conducted. The task was simple, or so the aliens believed. Each new researcher was asked to enter the chamber and calibrate a core sample under controlled exposure. Even with protective suits, most alien candidates barely lasted 60 seconds before retreating. Radiation here was beyond lethal. Daniel looked at the suit they offered him. He tilted his head, then chuckled. I'll be fine. Gasps erupted. You can't. That chamber, cried the crystalline coral, their body ringing with alarm. But Daniel was already stepping forward, unprotected. The door sealed shut behind him. Inside, the chamber's radiation spiked, levels that could unravel DNA in instants. Monitors screamed warnings. Aliens hissed and clicked in disbelief. And yet, Daniel walked calmly to the core sample, hands steady, eyes focused. He adjusted the calibrators with bare fingers, humming softly to himself. He spent over 2 minutes inside, longer than any species had ever dared. When he finally stepped out, unscathed, he stretched lazily. That wasn't so bad. Bit warm, though. The alien stared, silent, some trembling. One finally whispered, "Impossible. The laws of biology forbid this." Another muttered, "He broke them. Just walked through them like they were suggestions." Shock and whispers. In the cafeteria later, word spread like wildfire. Entire species gathered at tables, whispering in fear and awe. How does he regenerate? His cells should be shredded. He doesn't regenerate. He endures. No. Perhaps humans are already decayed creatures. They thrive on entropy itself. Daniel ate calmly, sipping from a cup of nutrient fluid. When he noticed the stares, he grinned. Food's good. Tastes like chicken. None of them knew what chicken was, but the way he said it, casual, dismissive, sent another ripple of unease through the crowd, as if even alien cuisine was nothing remarkable to a human palate. The second demonstration. The next trial was even more extreme, the vacuum exposure chamber. Here, researchers tested materials in raw space conditions, absolute zero, hard vacuum, radiation storms. No organic life could survive. The test was symbolic. Candidates were to place a device inside the chamber, under robotic control. Daniel, however, stepped forward without hesitation. "I'll do it myself." Before anyone could stop him, he keyed the door, stepped inside the vacuum, and sealed it behind him. The chamber filled with silence, air sucked away, pressure dropping to nothing. Aliens screamed, clawed at the observation glass. "He will die. He will burst apart." But he didn't. Daniel stood there, calm, chest rising in slow breaths, as though he carried an atmosphere within himself. He picked up the device, walked to the center, and placed it perfectly. Then he turned, eyes gleaming faintly under the harsh lights, and gave a thumbs up. The aliens collapsed in disbelief. When the chamber repressurized and he stepped out, one of the insectoid Zarthi fell to their knees. This thing is no organism. It is violation incarnate, a creature outside the rules. Daniel just coughed slightly. Dry air. Not a fan. Got any water? The hook. That night, the laboratory corridors were filled with whispers. Aliens huddled in groups, debating, frightened. He broke radiation. He broke vacuum. What else will he break? The director floated silently above, its fractal body shimmering. It spoke only once. "You are beginning to understand. Humans are not bound as you are. They are the experiment the universe never meant to succeed. And yet here they stand." Daniel, alone in his quarters, looked at the alien stars outside his window. He smiled faintly, unaware, or perhaps very aware, of the terror building in the hearts of every scientist who had witnessed him. Because tomorrow they would test him again. And tomorrow, the laws of biology, physics, and reason themselves would shatter further. Part 2, The Impossible Anatomy. The laboratory corridors pulsed with unease. Entire research wings of the Eidolon complex whispered Daniel Carter's name as though invoking a curse. Radiation had failed to harm him. Vacuum had bowed before him. Two of the most absolute natural limits, dismissed casually by a creature the galaxy had written off as primitive. The director floated silently in its fractal brilliance, observing how dread was taking root. It did not intervene. Fear was part of the process. And now, the second phase of testing would begin, dissection and analysis. Into the anatomy wing. The anatomy wing was built like a cathedral. Vast vaulted ceilings of glass and light. Surgical arms, suspended from above, like metallic spiders. Tables carved from living alloy, shifting to fit any form placed upon them. It was here that the galaxy dissected, studied, and cataloged life. Every organ, every nerve, every cell could be mapped, simulated, and understood. Every new researcher was expected to undergo a voluntary scan, non-invasive, painless, so the scientists could classify their physiology. Aliens took pride in being cataloged. It was an honor to be indexed in the Eidolon archive. Daniel's turn arrived. He climbed onto the scanning platform with his usual easy smile. "Guess it's X-ray time." The Kalari physician cocked her feathered head. "X-ray? He names it casually, like it is a toy. The crystalline coral triggered the scanner. Beams of light, magnetic resonance, subatomic waves, every form of analysis the galaxy possessed, flooded the chamber. Daniel lay perfectly still, hands folded behind his head, almost bored. Then the results appeared. The data that should not exist. Silence fell as the data scrolled across the observation screens. First, the baseline, skeletal density. Off the charts. Human bones carried a tensile strength, completely disproportionate to their size. When modeled, a single femur could endure impacts that shattered titanium composites. Second, musculature. Fibers that coiled like living steel cables. The predictive models suggested humans could lift 3 times their body weight with minimal training. Worse, the simulations showed that adrenaline, chemicals within their own blood, could temporarily double that strength. Third, the nervous system. Aliens saw transmission speeds in most species measured in careful increments of milliseconds. Human nerves fired like lightning, their reaction time skating along the boundary of predictive reflex. And then the strangest thing, the redundancy. 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, a backup liver function. Even the brain itself, 2 hemispheres, capable of rerouting if damaged. The insectoid Zarthi screeched. It is wasteful design. No efficient species carries so many spares. The coral clicked darkly. Not wasteful. Prepared. They are built for failure and survival. But the final revelation brought the room into chaos. The horror of the brain. The scan of Daniel's skull revealed something none of them had prepared for. The human brain burned with activity in patterns impossible to model. Every second, connections rewired, old circuits dissolved, new ones formed. Neural plasticity so extreme it bordered on the chaotic. The Eidolon Archive simulation AI attempted to predict his decision-making. It failed. It tried again. It failed again. The director finally spoke. You cannot predict him. The human mind refuses determinism. It is not algorithm, it is wildfire. The Kalari physician whispered in horror. Then they are unreadable. Even if captured. Even if controlled. The coral's crystal facets dimmed. How do you chain a storm? Daniel's casual reaction. Meanwhile, Daniel stretched as the scan finished. That's it. Felt like a cat skin back home. The alien stared. He compares this to a household pet. One of the insectoid Zarthi could not resist. Human, did you feel nothing during the analysis? Daniel blinked. Feel? Nah, I've been through worse. Broken arm when I was 12, got a cast. That sucked way more. The room shivered. He spoke of broken bones, like one might speak of spilled water. Another alien muttered, their injuries are anecdotes. Demonstration of pain. One of the more skeptical researchers, a towering reptilian thorax, snarled. This is fabrication. No species shrugs off harm so casually. I demand proof. Daniel looked at him calmly. Proof? You want me to hurt myself? The thorax hissed. If you are as unbreakable as your scans suggest, show us. Daniel sighed. Then, to everyone's horror, he grabbed a sterilized scalpel from the tray. Without hesitation, he dragged it across his forearm. Gasps filled the chamber. Blood welled, red and vivid. The Kalari screamed, wings flaring. He wounds himself without hesitation. But Daniel simply pressed a cloth to it, tied it off, and smiled. See, not a big deal. Couple days and this'll close up. The coral's crystal body shivered audibly. They repair themselves with no intervention? The director answered softly. They bleed willingly. They scar and keep moving. Pain is not an end for them, it is data. The whispering fear. That night, the entire anatomy wing refused to sleep. Whispers passed through the corridors like disease. 2 of every organ. Cells that multiply under stress. Brains that cannot be mapped. And they treat pain as nothing. For the first time, the word spread. Humans are not life. Humans are intrusion. Daniel, meanwhile, simply wrapped his arm in gauze, lay on his alien cot, and drifted off to sleep. Calm. Peaceful. The Kalari physician, watching from the observation pane, trembled. He sleeps. As though he has not just violated every law we know. as though cutting his flesh is ordinary. The coral replied, voice dim and trembling, no, worse, he sleeps because it is ordinary, for his kind. The director's quiet revelation. The director gathered the lead researchers into a private chamber. Its fractal form shimmered with hidden colors. You think this is the end of your revelations, it said. But this is only the beginning. You have seen their bodies, their pain, their adaptability. You have not yet seen the truth. And what truth is that? Hissed the Tharok, still shaken. The director pulsed once, and its voice became almost reverent. The truth is this. Humans carry within them the single most terrifying trait in the galaxy. They are not bound by what is. They imagine what is not, and then they make it real. Silence fell. None dared breathe, because if radiation, vacuum, pain, and biology could not define the limits of these creatures, then nothing could. And all the aliens in the Eidolon complex began to wonder, trembling, what rule of nature would fall next. Part 3. When the experiment looked back, the Eidolon complex had dissected stars, measured black holes, and cataloged the DNA of 10,000 species. Its archives were the closest thing to truth the galaxy possessed. And yet, one man, Daniel Carter, was breaking every truth they thought immutable. Phase 3 of the experiments would not be about endurance or anatomy. It would be about mind and creation. The Thought Lab. They brought him into a chamber few aliens had ever seen. The Thought Lab. It was a sphere suspended in the void, walls layered with neuroharmonic crystal. This place was where they tested imagination itself. Aliens here could be measured on the scale of abstract reasoning, simulation, problem-solving. The coral physician explained with pride, we will present you with scenarios no mind has solved. Mazes of logic, impossible riddles, thought experiments to test the edges of cognition. Daniel grinned. So puzzles. Aliens blinked. Puzzless. The impossible puzzle. A lattice unfolded in the air. A construct of light and geometry so complex that even the director itself admitted no Eidolon species had ever solved it. The rules bent upon themselves. Every attempt spiraled into contradiction. Aliens leaned forward. Could this human even begin? Daniel cracked his knuckles. Looks like something I doodled in high school math class. He sat down cross-legged, eyes narrowing. Minutes passed. Then his hand started moving in the air, sketching invisible lines. He muttered numbers, equations, then switched mid-sentence into metaphors. It's like a knot. You don't pull it tighter. You flip it inside out. Within an hour, the lattice dissolved into perfect symmetry. Solved. The chamber went deathly silent. The unthinkable question. The director itself spoke, voice trembling with awe. Human, how did you solve that which defied all minds? Daniel shrugged. Simple. You guys kept trying to follow the rules. But rules are just agreements. Change the perspective. Change the rules. The Kalari physician nearly collapsed. He rewrote the framework itself. The coral dimmed. Then, there is no system that can contain them. They will break every simulation. The experiment turns. The aliens had one last test, dream simulation. If his body and logic could not be bound, perhaps his subconscious could be mapped. They wired him into the dream interface, expecting to see fractals of human memory. Instead, the opposite happened. The interface began to dream of him. Alarms screamed as alien systems filled with visions of fire, oceans, cities, and faces they had never cataloged. Entire cultures poured into their servers. Not just memories, histories, futures, possibilities. The director cried out. He is infecting the archive. But Daniel, half asleep, whispered, I'm not infecting anything. You asked me to dream, and I did. The machines burned with impossible data. Humans weren't just surviving reality. They were generating new ones. Alien panic. The research staff staggered. If this is one human, what of billions? They would overwrite the galaxy with their fictions. The Kalari clutched her head. We thought they were anomalies of biology, but they are anomalies of existence. The coral whispered, voice hollow. They are nature's glitch. Daniel's escape. The systems overloaded. Light shattered. The laboratory's restraints fell open. Daniel stood. rubbing his eyes as if waking from a nap. Guess that's enough testing for one lifetime. The director's vast form descended, fractal wings quivering. Aliens across the chamber dropped to their knees in instinctive submission. Never before had the director bent before another being, but it bowed its head to him. You are not subject to our laws. You are not bound by our truths. Human, you are the lawbreaker, the uncontainable. The galaxy feared monsters from the dark, but it was you all along. Daniel gave a small, almost sad smile. Nah, we're not monsters. We're just people. You just never met us before. The legacy. When he left the Eidolon complex, the aliens did not try to stop him. How could they? They watched as he walked out into the starlight, one fragile body, carrying the weight of terror and wonder alike. In the days that followed, whispers spread to every corner of the galaxy. The human cannot be mapped. The human cannot be broken. The human dreams, and reality bends. And so a new entry was carved into the Eidolon archive, in a section reserved for cosmic phenomena, not living beings. Classification, human. Status, the rule breakers. Threat level, undefined. And across the laboratories, alien scientists spoke in hushed tones a truth they could not escape. We set out to study them, but in the end, it was they who studied us. And we learned that nothing in the galaxy is more terrifying than a human imagining what comes next.